Hi everyone, welcome to Living La Vita Local Podcast, a retro gaming podcast for some of your retro gaming needs. My name is Fazz.
And I'm Rich.
And I'm Haikers. 2 weeks in a row!
Yay. We do that every time.
Yeah, we should see other people.
It was in my rider, don't worry.
Must cheer.
I mean, I just joked about 30 seconds ago. I was like, we have to do this every week, don't we? And you reminded me that we don't have to do this every week. We're not
Just feels
contractually
like every
obligated.
week.
Don't look behind the Wizard of Oz curtain. Don't look at the man.
That's what's fun about it. You know, as in, I enjoy coming around to your house every 2 weeks, and it's just we don't have to talk in front of a microphone every 2 weeks. But you get used to it. You press the button, you start talking, and then you don't stop.
Would we ever have a conversation without a phone present?
It's been done.
It's like having a conversation, but there's a winner. It's good.
We've been told through friends and people on the internet who aren't friends that they enjoy our casual conversations that we all have together. So
that's nice.
It's
nice.
I guess a positive thing.
Oh, if people are listening and not actually hating their time, then yeah.
Then are you even on the internet?
Well, I guess
I did my best last week with
You were trying to kick it off.
If you're not review bombed by the time this comes out, let's see.
So we'll try not to get review bombed on a nice, gentle subject. I believe I would call it.
Reasonably uncontentious.
We'll see.
Yeah, we'll find out soon, won't we? So
watch me work.
We try and do a little bit of a sports game podcast every summer. We've done golf, we've done cricket, we've done football, we've done American football.
There are no more sports left.
Well, it does. We were just talking about scraping the barrel before as well.
We should do made up sports.
National track and field kind of thing. We've done that before. That is in, yeah.
Track and field is not made up, Fazz. I've seen it.
It is for me.
I tried it once. It didn't go well, but it's a real sport.
Did you try and do track and field at the same time? Because that's when it goes wrong.
Oh my god! Just trying to sprint with a pole vault in your pants or something, just sort of
dragging a shot put.
I'm not going for the obvious joke on that.
Oh, he's just hammered someone across the line. Anyway, so a more gentle subject. What a lawn sport, if you will? I don't know. What tennis? It's fucking tennis, or fucking. It's Wimbledon this week coming up. Maybe I think. I've lost control.
Sort of Wimbledon adjacent. In the calendar.
Yeah,
I guess.
It's the time where people eat strawberries, drink cream, and watch Fred Perry.
It's like the 30s.
And we're just going to try and put a podcast around that somehow. So
do we collectively know anything about tennis?
You don't just play it on lawn.
Yeah,
there are other options.
You can do clay.
Yeah,
or hard.
Or hard.
Hardcore. It's
just hard. It's just hard.
Yeah, exactly.
No one knows what it's made of.
No one knows what hard is made of. It's not the line that we need to go with for the podcast. I know a little bit about tennis.
Okay,
a little bit. Yeah,
nice.
But from 2012, that is in when Andy Murray was good.
Oh,
that is
right.
Basically,
multiple rounds and fire pots and
yeah. I look around at tennis now and I can't find anybody that I particularly know as well as I did when you had Federer, Murray, Nadal, and Djokovic kind of being what you call the big four, except it was probably the big three, and Murray occasionally won a few bits. But I will. Okay. Yeah. Whenever someone says, "Oh, do you watch tennis?" I'll be like, "When it's on."
I know tennis.
When someone puts it on the television in front of me, it's there.
Okay.
It's okay. Yeah, presentable.
Yeah. I'm into tennis. Yeah, I'm into tennis the same way I'm into rugby union, which is I'll watch the Six Nations. I will watch Wimbledon. It's on free to air television, and I remember.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, I think that's probably the right way to approach it. And I'd never really played any tennis games before, if I'm going to be honest. I remember having something for the PS1 that I think might have had Pete Sampras's face on it, and that's about as much as I remember. So, yeah.
Just a screensaver, just bouncing around.
Like the DVD logo.
Yeah,
they were playing
Pete Sampras's face.
Yeah, Pete Sampras was on the ball, and it was they were playing with Pete Sampras. So, yeah, that's probably... Was it Smash Davis Cup tennis. I can't remember now, but I remember playing it and being shit at it, and being like 8 years old and being like, "Oh, I can't do this." So, so I've come back for a game a little bit later than that, and I've opted for Virtua Tennis 4 World Tour on the Vita from 2012. Haikers, you were telling me about a game that you have been playing, or you played the series New Star Tennis and New Star Football. I've never heard of it before.
No, so New Star Tennis is the game I've gone with on the tennis theme. Made by New Star Games, nice and easy to remember, a British indie studio. And they did a bunch. They're most famous for New Star Soccer, which, despite being a British company, they decided international appeal to call it soccer instead of football. And I sort of played number 3 to death, number 4 a bit, and number 5 loads. But they had a bunch of other kind of more niche games as well. So they had New Star GP and New Star Tennis as well.
It's really cool. They kind of like dip their toes into lots of different sports.
It is. It's good. I want more. They if anyone's played Retro Ball on the mobile or Yeah. Then that's the same company.
Right.
That's them.
Okay.
So they've branched out more into the mobile games now. There was like a cricket one. There was a and there's a mobile version of soccer, and there's a soccer management one as well. There's a load of stuff kicking about, and they've got some pretty they have a bit of a different. They're sort of like sports RPGs, light. So there's some different bits about it which kind of makes it a bit more compelling. In terms of my first experience of playing tennis, I was just reminded about Super Tennis on the SNES, which was my first tennis experience. I've still got like the I can get the soundtrack just in my head, like from the beginning of it is just etched into my brain. And never being able to beat Bob. I think it was Bob. He was, they didn't have the licensed players, but Bob was just the man. I could watch my brother. He's just like, no, you've got to lob Bob. And it's like, I can't lob Bob. How do you lob Bob?
His head.
But again, this is when I was, 7 or 8 years old. So like,
I wanted to be Bob.
I wanted to be Bob. But because my brother was just like, it's not worth explaining how you do slice and lob and all that kind of stuff. I only thought there was one button to hit, and then he just lobbed Bob by pressing green or something, and it blew my tiny mind.
Haikers, you've recently run a marathon. You're bagging loads of Monroes, and now you're going to be Bob. Well, is it in a couple of years' time? Tennis pro Bob.
Hey, I'll never beat Bob.
Rich, can you lob a Bob better? Can you better lob Bob?
No. So I'm going to talk about squash tonight.
Yeah. Tonight.
I should have chosen Windjammers. I didn't.
That would have been a fucking great shout.
It would have been a really good shout, wouldn't it? I could have done Virtua Tennis 3. I could have done that Pete Sampras one that was on Evercade that I rented once on the Mega Drive as well. I could have done a bunch of stuff. Oh, all the things I could have done, but I didn't. And first time playing tennis games and all that kind of stuff, I've just had a quick check because I vaguely, from the dregs of my memory, recall renting an Andre Agassi game on the Mega Drive. I just checked and it does exist.
Oh, yeah, good.
That's all I got.
Excellent.
I don't remember anything about it. I do remember playing again the on the Codemasters cart on Evercade. There's an unreleased tennis game that's on there. That's like a kind of early-ish version of one that became a Pete Sampras game, which I also played reasonably early on. But then there's this massive gap because I basically don't care about tennis.
Yeah.
I did try playing it a couple of times.
But did you?
Yeah. Like IRL?
I was going to say, is it like recreationally
on
or
court?
Yeah. I used to play when I was a kid. And we had a good set of tennis courts down by the castle in Carlisle. It was quite picturesque, but I was shit at tennis.
Yeah.
So you did play quite a bit of Virtua Tennis 3 at university, did you say?
Yeah, like we got
that sound like a proper conversation. Like, you used to row at university.
I mean, I did real things too. Just not that. But yeah, no, we did. I ended up unlocking all the characters and stuff like that. So, my friends would just demolish each other as Duke.
Yeah. Duke, Bob,
Yeah, like proper,
Duke Bob
like
off.
would
I think it's
probably-
like Pokemon Evolution.
That really
like Bob evolves into Duke.
that really
Duke
stopped
Bob.
my
was,
tracks.
was properly like, you know, long trousers, white cap, like proper like old school wooden racket and all that kind of stuff.
Okay.
Like
yeah,
Mr.
fair
Peanut,
enough.
but in tennis
Yeah.
form.
Sure, why not?
Yeah.
And yeah, like he was just an absolute monster. Monster.
Slurs.
No one
Just
messes
like-
with the Duke.
just throwing racket at you across the lawn and stuff. Lawn again.
I just hope I haven't made all this up, and
No.
it did happen.
Yeah, no, well, that sits well with, I think, some of the things that are in Virtua Tennis 4. That sounds like,
Okay,
you know,
well,
there's
That's dimly reassuring.
there's
I'm going to
definitely
Google it anyway.
weird little modes.
Post-apocalyptic, having to kind of clean up after Duke has destroyed the world. I might have skimmed the Wikipedia article.
Oh yeah, no, King and Duke, Virtua Tennis 3. You had King as well.
Is that from Tekken?
If only it were. The tragic thing is, I was sitting here looking at the results on my phone going, wouldn't it have been great if it was King from Tekken? Am I that predictable?
What is
a
his
Tekken?
racket sport of choice? That is in King. Lacrosse, probably. I'll kick off things, I think.
Well, that's playing tennis wrong.
Yeah.
Hey.
I will kick off things and start again. Yeah. That is one thing I would say about tennis.
Yeah,
Is
what's
that,
up with the scoring?
yeah, the scoring. That is in like. So if you get, I understand why they do have strange words for it, because when you get to juice, what else would you call juice? Without calling
Sorry,
it juice.
say that again, but a bit slower. Because I thought you were going to tell me like they've got weird words for the scoring because it was something to do with like the fucking Gregorian calendar.
No, I'm not going to give you like.
No, I know this.
Or-
I know this one.
Do you?
It was the clock, and they used to score the games with a clock. So 15,
Oh.
then 30. But then in French, it's a pig to say to say 45. So that's why it's 40 instead of 45.
That's so fucking lazy. It's like
Just make your own scoreboard, tennis.
so. What is
Genuinely didn't know that. That's
Yeah.
incredible. Right.
so then?
Consider me educated.
It might be an urban legend, but that is what
I'll take it.
that's-
Yeah,
That's
no,
far more sensible than anything I had.
It's on a podcast. It's okay.
Something to do with the moon.
But then I was just thinking about it. Like, so you could go. So 15 could be right. 1 point. You go 1 point each. 32 points. 43 points. But when you get to juice, what would I guess you couldn't call it a tie break because you've already got a tie break.
because you run out of clock. You can't
Yeah.
just keep going, like, you can't just keep going to quarter past because it's like, you're back to 15. No,
Yeah,
that's
I
not
know.
how it works. So, I don't know. I sort of works.
Oh, no, I'm not
I
saying it
think
doesn't
that-
work. I'm just thinking that I don't know what the other term, if there would be another term for it.
Considering you're a big American football fan, Fazz, illegal shift, 5 yards, the fact that we know what that means and can picture what has gone wrong, I don't think we want to talk about, like, terminology being
This is
a
why
bit
this is
cryptic.
confusing, because you can't go out quite
Shouldn't
down
throw
to that level
stones.
again.
It's
Anyway.
also not tennis.
Also,
Virtua Tennis 4 World Tour. So I played this on the Vita. It was a launch title for the Vita, actually. So all the way back in 2012. Have you played this on the Vita at all?
I think I did have it very, very, very briefly. I didn't hang on to it.
Kind of brought it up in the conversation when we were talking about like building our own Vita game collections, and we were sort of saying it was on the list of the 100 games that we were looking at, where actually for sports games, if we were going to try and pick one or two, that was on there, and like sort of everybody's golf, and I was a bit like, oh, well, that kind of kickstarted me into thinking, oh, well, maybe I should give it a go, because it's quite well regarded.
Go forth and do a tennis.
Yes, do a tennis, do a juice, and
I know all the lingo, me.
I'm really glad of it because I don't. So
Blow the whistle. Set.
So that. Oh wait, no, wrong one again. So really, in a good sense and also a bad sense, this has exclusive features for the Vita.
Oh.
That I know you're always fond of hearing about. So
those.
that's why I'll get mine out the way first.
Yeah, I think you probably should.
You'll be glad to hear that they don't detract from the game if you don't play them. So it's not one of those things where they force you to use them. So they are there as this is a bit of an add-on. And the reason this is called the World Tour version is because of the fact that actually to disseminate it from Virtua Tennis 4 that had just come out a few months before in the arcades. And yeah, so basically they were like, right, we'll just tag World Tour on the end of it so that it's different, the Vita version from the actual version itself. Funnily enough, like this, they're not around anymore that much. Virtua Tennis. Like this was like the last version of Virtua Tennis that was released, which I didn't realize. I thought it was more long lived, but it was 1999 till 2012. And this was it. It's more Top Spin 2K nowadays and things that are out and about. Tennis Elbow, I've never really heard of it myself, to be honest. And other game called Tiebreak. Apparently they're like the tennis games that are around now that are a lot more sim-like. Whereas I found this to be more of the Sega arcade fun.
Like with Virtua Striker as well and all that. Like, they just seem to get rid of all of the Virtuas. Yeah,
well, I think I floated the idea to you maybe on text a few weeks ago. I was like, we should talk about all the Virtua series, and then I forgot to do it.
I could talk about Virtua Fighter.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I think Virtua Fighter is the thing that's now obviously
the one that lasted.
Yeah, the one. That's why I thought, that conversation's kind of a bit null and void because Virtua Fighter is kind of the one that's kicking around still. But there was you said Virtua Soccer, was Striker. Thank you. And then there was Virtua Racing and things. So, Sega loved the Virtua.
Virtua Cop.
Oh yeah.
That's that well-known sport.
Yeah. Jeez. It is quite an arcade style game then. So you basically, you got 4 types of shot, which is just attributed to each of the face buttons. So you kind of get top spin, a slice, do a lob bob, and a super shot, which
everyone knows there was the 4 types of tennis shot.
Exactly. Yeah. Why not? And then you get a power bar for serving. And to be honest, apart from that, the gameplay is, I'd say, the most straightforward. I didn't expect it to be as easy as it was to get into. And that's where I thought, this really lends itself to my kind of gaming, where I'm like, I'm not having to learn all the sim-like, ways that you have to, I guess.
Where's my yell at coach button?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I just all I found I had to do was just be in the right position at the right time, and everything else took care of itself. Probably a tiny bit of a detriment to the game, almost to the point where I found myself within probably about 2 hours of playing the best tennis player in the entire world. And that was on normal mode as well. So it wasn't as if I'd hate to see what easy mode looked like on this. I probably would be Pete Sampras by that point. Jeez, just hitting against a wall. The Vita exclusive features then that I mentioned, so I'm going to get those out of the way, just to kind of go through the good and the bad and the ugly. So you could, if you wanted to, play with touch controls for the core gameplay. It works. It's just way more cumbersome than it is actually using analog sticks and the buttons. It just felt like, here's a feature that we're going to show you for the Vita. Remember, it is a launch title for the Vita, so they go, we've built this in. And it was just swiping on your phone left and right to hit shots, and it just didn't seem to work particularly well.
I vaguely recall having a Virtua Tennis on my phone at one point. I want to say Virtua Tennis Challenge or something.
So
is that a thing?
That's the only thing that's kind of still kicking around is the Virtua Tennis app. That is it.
Right.
So that still exists as a thing.
So clearly someone thought the touchscreen was we're onto something with this.
Yeah, fuck the Vita. Drop that in the bin and put it on the phone. So there's also a first-person mode using the Vita gyro. So you can basically use you go to the ball. Well, that's the thing. So you can't see your racket while you're playing it. So you're just
you're having to swing the Vita around while also seeing where you're going.
Well, all you're controlling is your head movement. So you're just kind of looking around with your head, and you could look down at your racket if you wanted to while the
just
ball's
like Djokovic does. Yeah.
It was just a bit odd, really. So I understand why they were trying to get it into the game to showcase that feature of the Vita, but it just didn't work at all. So far, 0 for 2. Love 30, thank you very much. Yeah, there we go. So the next bit, which was absolutely horrific, and I actually sent you a WhatsApp. You've forgotten about it by now, but of my face, my face on a camera constructed onto a player.
Oh yeah.
And
God, no, I'm remembering.
It was devastating.
God, I buried that deep.
Yeah. Someone needs to bury it deep in the ground. It was just, it was horrific. I don't understand how how poor the camera was at putting it, and then to put it onto an actual player model. Like, it was almost like I was on the nose of the person, like, as it wasn't like
it was not
and then
right.
stretched over the nose.
What year was this?
2012.
2012.
Yeah,
Because I remember having NHL 2003 that had a like import a photo onto like a creator player, and I looked like some kind of horror thing with like my smile stretched across my face. But that's what 9 years before that.
Yeah. So it hadn't gone far really.
No.
Love 40. There was an augmented reality. So they've gone for all the fucking features here. They just really went for it. To bring famous tennis players, into photos that you took in your front room, for example. So I would take a photo of my front room, and then all of a sudden I would have Roger Federer like sat by my fireplace.
How do you come up with that idea? Where does that come from? What time of night are they locked in a room thinking we need to sort some features out? Do you know what everyone really, really wants? They want Novak Djokovic like draped over the hood of a car.
So hang on. So like, it's not even like when I had that little phase of reviewing those kind of AR card games and stuff like that. Like, there was one that was like a table football thing. So it's not even like you could lay down one of these cards and have them like say play tennis on your table.
No.
They were just sat there.
You could like take a photo of your office, for example, and then like, I don't know, sit Nadal beside you and make him do a spreadsheet or some shit. It's just like it just I don't really know.
So you don't even do anything with it.
Yeah, well, you could share it if you'd really want to somebody else. But
contractually, Andy Murray still has to come and do your spreadsheet.
Yeah, that's legally binding.
He's free now. He's retired. Playing a lot of golf apparently. The only redeeming feature that I did find that I thought worked quite well was that, and I tested this on my wife Sally, notoriously who hates video games, but she didn't hate this as an idea. So you can play 2-player on the Vita, turn it on its side, and use the touch controls, but you kind of playing a game of Pong basically.
Okay, right.
And actually,
that's kind of
really reactive and works quite well. So that wasn't horrendous, to be honest. So it was something. If they just got rid of all their other shit and they said this is the unique Vita thing that we've got, I'd been like, oh, okay, cool,
well played.
So with that all out of the way, what is Virtua Tennis kind of about? So I was really impressed by how responsive it was, how great it looked. It had, excuse me, almost like what I felt were nearly PS3 level visuals. It felt like you were actually playing a game of tennis. Like, as in the court had all the details, the crowd were interactive. It's got great sound effects. That is in, and it all seems to match the right time when you hit the ball with the racket and things. And I was like, oh right, okay, this is actually a genuinely really good tennis game from what from my lack of experience of tennis games. I felt like it was the perfect sort of snackable sports game that you would need portable on the go. That each match that you played, I guess the general setting seemed to be that you would play 2 service games, you would serve, and then your opponent would serve, and then if you hadn't won by that point, you'd end up in a tiebreak. Which it was like 10 minutes per game maximum, and that was just like perfect. Like I can get instant gratification for sort of I can play a whole game of tennis, I can put my Vita down, and I can go have a look at a photo of Andy Murray in my kitchen. I don't know. It's just sort of like now I've got time to do that. It wasn't obviously the deepest tactically, because like I said, it just felt like you could just move your player into position, and if you were in the right place, you would probably play the right shot, like regardless of what button you hit at the end, and that was it. So it was more of a timing and position sort of thing. If you moved yourself up to the net, it felt like you were just fucking invincible. Like, as in, it felt like, like your opponent AI just melted away. So like, saw you looming towards the net, waggling your stick at them. So that's what it's called, right? But yeah, so in terms of gameplay, really impressive. If not the super deep. The thing that I really enjoyed about this, and going back to what you were saying in Haikers about having sort of an RPG sort of thing, is the World Tour mode itself. So that's the career mode, and it was extensive and deep in terms of the different things you could do in it. So, for example, to give you a scenario then, so you're directed by, you can't choose this person, Spencer Heath is your coach. Of course he is. And, you know...
I hate him. I mean, yeah, it sounds like a tennis coach.
And something I think that would appeal to both of you is you almost have like a weird sort of board game with a travel ticket system going on. It's a bit like a fucked up Ticket to Ride.
Spencer, you're my manager. Sort this crap out yourself.
No,
I don't want to know.
What are we paying you for?
Yeah, Spencer was just like, he was encouraging the Ticket to Ride situation. He was like, no, like, okay, come on, this is the fun part. Like, as in, you loved it.
It's just a tennis.
Spencer, you're...
Yeah. So, like, the scenario is then, so your next major territorial tournament, which is generally a Grand Slam, is in 70 days, 70 game days. You are given some random journey tickets to move around some arbitrary spaces on the world map. On the route, you've got things like practice matches, training mini games, fun mini games like Sega fun mini games like chase these chickens into this coop, and you know, and you'll get.
What am I learning, Spencer? What am I learning?
Honestly, like it just felt so much like that. And you know, you're in a casino, collect all the coins while you're also hitting the ball back to your opponent and stuff.
God, I'm so poor.
It made sense in the context of the game, I guess. There's preparation tournaments. You get fan and charity interactions via email. You know, like, we're your new fan club. There's 4 of us now, and I was like, "Fuck yeah!" Like, brilliant. There's a management hub. Fancy dress tournaments that you can get involved in because as you work your way through the game, so the whole idea is that on this World Tour mode, you earn stars to enter tournaments. And the only time that I kind of found that really annoying was when I was 1 star shy out of 70 stars. So you can imagine, obviously it's quite a small amount, and it was like, oh, you don't have 1 star, so therefore you have to play all of the pre-tournament for this major tournament, which is fine because you get lots of practice, but at the same time I was like, fuck, that was just like so like I failed. And a lot of that was to do with the random arbitrary tickets as well. Like you could find that, oh, I've got a ticket that moves me 4 places, and it'd be like, oh, you've just missed a preparation tournament, and you're like, well, I didn't fucking want to. Like, I think it was insinuating you should manage your tickets as well as you possibly could, because you could manipulate the number of moves you made, but not as easily as not as easily as it made out. Like, you had to go into this little management hub interaction area, and it was like, oh, buy a 1 space ticket or whatever for this much credits. So you're controlling credits, you're controlling stars, you're controlling tickets.
Sounds bloody complicated.
Yeah. The word convoluted is what I've got down here, and a lot to track. But don't worry, it all gets quite well explained by Spencer-ish. You know, Spencer's wonderful. A quote from Spencer here: "Behave like a star. Give dreams and hopes to people. You can earn stars." So you know, that's the kind of thing that Spencer would input into your life.
I wouldn't let him drive me anywhere.
No, I don't know. He's definitely getting the.
Does
ferry.
he like not blink with both eyes at the same time?
Yeah, Spencer was a turtle that I found on the beach somewhere when I got lost.
Spencer!
More of a spirit guide than a manager.
Yeah, real shaman. There's also on top of this, you kind of get again arbitrarily allocated playing partners who interact with you a little bit, and sort of they're like a rival. So you play them in practice matches, and then you'll play them in tournaments, but also you play double matches as well to give you practice at those. There's a lot going on. But there's, also a lot of it is quite breezy, fun Sega shit. Like it's not horrendous either. Like I thought after a little while, oh, I'm gonna fucking hate this. Like after about an hour, and then an hour later, I was like, actually, it kind of clears its own way if you just kind of just spamming the button, just say, yeah, whatever. Just agree to whatever Sega tell you to do.
Yeah, Spencer. Yeah.
Yeah,
Spencer.
Spencer's got my fucking soul now. You know, the only problem is that I'm not sure how much of all that actually matters either. Like, as in, I don't think anything that the game was telling you were progressing at. I think the progression came from me playing practice matches at tennis and getting better at the game myself.
So just to chuck this at you, I've remembered since the start of this where I last played this game, and I'm reasonably sure I've remembered. It was Arcade Club. I think I played the arcade version at Arcade Club, and I don't remember any of this like Ticket to Ride stuff. But I remember it being like really, really solid, like tennis, like as a sports game, rather than I don't know. Not even a management sim. I don't think real world works like that.
But and that was, I felt a bit weird about it because like you said, the core gameplay of the tennis itself is it does very little wrong from an arcade point of view.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And it looks great and it plays really well. And on the Vita, exactly the same. And you take away those stupid Vita features that they try and kind of spoon in. But again, I'm not going to use that against them because they don't make you do that in the main game, or they don't make you do that online or anything. They're like,
bloody hell, I'd use that against them.
Yeah. Here's something you could use. There's no microtransactions as well, which again feels like very early on in the Vita sort of development cycle, where it's like, launch game, like as in we won't charge people more money, like as in, but wait,
we're not entirely confident you have an internet connection.
Yeah, exactly.
What if Spencer's one's move tickets cost real money?
God,
I could see a world where that was like within a millimeter of that happening. Like, as in the credit system, I was like, why is this here? Like, as in, and it was like, but at least in the end they have opted and said, you've got 800 credits, you can buy this type of ticket or whatever, or you can buy a nice new shirt or some sunglasses or something. So, and then the fancy dress costumes, for example.
What does that get you?
Nothing.
What was
street
you dress
cred?
as?
Street cred. Yeah.
Okay.
And
how does that translate
hard,
to real
hard
cred?
cred, because you played on hard, like as in, it's just like, very good, thank you. Jeez. So yeah, apart from the convoluted goofiness of it all, I really enjoyed myself with this. That is in, and it would just, and it, I'll go back to that word of it being snackable, and even in the World Tour mode, you could put it down and pick it back up, sort of a few games later, and it was very easy to get in and out of. Spencer made it easy for me. He really improved my life, and so I can see why this is a well-regarded sports game for the Vita. We've discussed how there isn't necessarily that many of them on there, but yeah, it felt like they did a good job of understanding we're going to put this onto the portable device and keep it as good as we can, whilst also they kind of felt like it wasn't perfect, but it was pretty good, is what I'm trying to get to. As in, like, I can see a world where they could have done a much better job, but also a much worse job as well. So yeah, 7 for me. 7, I think. Which I'd slot in as, like, one of the better sports games that I've played, certainly on a portable device anyway. So yeah, that was me and my tennis odyssey, and I will be seeing Spencer later after the podcast, potentially.
Good.
With some credits.
Good. Don't really know what to do with
no.
Spencer feels like if he's not, he should be a random character in Grand Theft Auto. He's one of the mission givers who's just absolute chaos, and he's just like, I bought you some random tickets. Here's one for the London Metro and the Paris bus, and here's a ticket to the moon. I don't know who gave it out, but it definitely says moon on there.
I imagine there's a dark scenario where he has smuggled some drugs into a Far East country that he shouldn't have smuggled into, and you and him are stuck in a jail somewhere, and you've not got enough tickets to get out.
Why do you think it's so important that you catch those chickens?
Yeah. So saving us from this cell in the far-flung lands, who wants to go next?
Go on then.
Me? You? Me?
Oh yeah, I said go on then, and then didn't actually say a person.
No,
go on. I'll go next because at least mine is definitely still tennis. I'm still not clear on the words that you said, but I guess we'll find out. It's really interesting because it's interesting to hear you say about the snackable bit, because I ran into a bit of a problem with New Star Tennis. I got really bored. And it's interesting that you had all that, because and I know we are talking about tennis, but I think I probably have to talk about the appeal of some of the other games in the New Star series, and maybe why tennis was a bit of a swing and a miss. Thank you for them on this one. And it's with regret that I say that, because genuinely I had such a good time with the other ones. Spoiler for my review, but hey. So the one of the great things about the New Star game, so soccer in particular, so you play as a single footballer. Like you start as a 16-year-old with, like, your skill is 0, but your ambition is limitless. And it's got it's got a big database. It's not got the rights to anything. It's a top-down 2D affair. If you're thinking of 3 or 5, 4 was 3D, but then they moved back to 2D. But you start as a 16-year-old. You've got, like, kind of mini games to increase your skill. You have an energy bar that depletes if you do too much training. So you've got to balance training with trying to get into the first team for, usually start in the English league. So you're a conference team, or you're in a Scottish like 3rd division team or something like that, wherever you're actually playing. And then as you've got all these different relationships to manage, but so the whole thing is about managing your energy, managing your career.
Yeah.
Do you want to get game time that's going to get you a better contract that will mean that you can afford nicer houses, get better spot and like more spotlight on you? Or do you want to prioritize your development as a young player? And it's nice. It's got a nice level of depth to it. It's not it's not crazy, but it is a nice level of depth, and there's real progression there. So you go from a lad who's basically can kick a ball as well as I can, which is not very well. And then, you kind of progress through the ranks, and you get to this point where, you've got you boost your team relationship, so they pass to you more when you call for the ball. They respect you. But to do that, sometimes you have to go out on the lash with them. So you might still have alcohol in your system the next day, which genuinely will make you fall over at occasional points. It's got that nice kind of charm to it. It's silly, but it all sort of works, and there's real progression. You can get picked for the international squad. It goes on and on and on. So that's the appeal to me. I just really, really like that.
I can already see where this is going to fall.
Tennis is an individual sport already. Tennis is an individual sport, so there's no team unless you play doubles. Doubles is not an option in this one. This one it's a 3D tennis sim. It is not beautifully rendered, but that's never been the appeal of the games. Like, great graphics is not what you go to those games for. But the tennis itself, very, very simple to pick up. It's very similar. You've got I was playing on keyboard. So you have the cursor keys to move, and you have WSAD as your lob normal shot. You don't get super shots, unfortunately. Slice and the other one.
Other shot.
Fade. That's golf. What is it?
I don't know. Super shot, right?
No, like
I thought this as well. I thought there was like because they don't talk about it very often, because obviously you hit forehand and backhand.
Yeah,
but then when it was coming up with Virtua Tennis, it was like, you play a top spin, and I was like, is that what it is? I didn't realize that was the case.
Yeah, when you kind of like hack down at it, and it goes.
Yeah, so that is a slice, isn't it? Like, as in, backhand slice,
and it does,
or whatever.
And I don't know how Virtua Tennis does your sort of shot placement, but there's a nice the kind of core mechanic in it is in New Star Tennis is you've got a sort of almost like a target reticle, and you have to move with the cursor keys, and then you select your shot before the ball gets to you, and then at that point your control goes to the reticle, which depending on your skill will move faster, and it'll be bigger or smaller depending on how precise you can be, and then that is how you kind of direct your shot. Which quite a nice mechanic.
Yeah, it wasn't like that in Virtua Tennis. It's more of a general direction push, and therefore it assumes, and it seemed to be quite receptive to that.
Almost like a kind of Mario Tennis kind of a setup.
But I think I would prefer probably actually having a bit
more control. And there's an element of progression into it, because you've got the skill challenges, and like basically all of the mini games are. Some variant of you've got like a ball machine on the other side. It pings you a ball and you have to hit the target either with a forehand or a backhand or a volley, or you're just serving at a target. And you need to get enough points to level up, and then you spend some energy, and then you I don't know, you go away. Managing your time. There's no kind of travel or ticket situation.
So fast.
It did. But that's
there's so much I care about this game.
That's what I mean. I think tennis games run into a fundamental problem, which is tennis is very, very fun to watch, and I'm sure it's very fun to play in real life. I don't want... It's such a repetitive game loop if all you were doing is playing tennis. And I think part of the problem that I had with it was there didn't seem to be any variation in the styles of the people you were against. So I lost a grand total of 1 game. I was playing on, it's easy, normal, hard. I was playing on normal. But the first game I played as a precocious 15-year-old, first tournament, which was you select each week, you've got up to 3 slots to do kind of training, or go karting, or going to the horse racing, which I'll come to. But or just resting, or you can enter a tournament, and each of the tournament has different points associated with it, like pro points to get you up the rankings, and they've got a different prize associated with it. The problem I had was I deliberately entered into like a sort of the lowest possible tournament I could with the lowest possible prize money, lowest possible thing, thinking, okay, I can't go for one of the major ones because that's going to be, who do I turn up against? Rafael Nadal is my first opponent as a 15-year-old in like, I don't know, somewhere in Czechia. Like, it's not a...
Maybe he'd been out on the lash night before. It's fine.
Maybe.
He's going to fall over and
Maybe.
he'd serve past him.
But he just absolutely mullered me. But then I sort of had this vague memory.
There's a lesson in here somewhere. Give up at tennis at 15,
I probably should have done. But then I did like a little bit more. I essentially just spent the next few weeks doing the training, and I just put it into getting my speed and my stamina up, because they're the two easiest. You don't have to do challenges. You just press a button. It's like, okay, you're faster.
Yeah.
And it took, I counted. It took 4 weeks to get my speed up to maximum. So that's 4-week challenge. Everyone go out and just sprint in a line for 4 weeks, and you'll be the fastest man alive. But when I did that, something weird happened, which was I never lost another game. Like, I genuinely never lost another game, because you get to the ball, and the target reticle doesn't move as quickly if you're not particularly skillful, but every single opponent that you're against plays the same, and they've all got the same weakness. And talk about coming full circle, I lobbed Bob. Every time you can, like, all I needed to do, if I could return a serve, so serve is, even with a serve of like 1.5 out of 10, I was still mostly getting aces, which it sounds great, but it's actually
it's really
tedious.
Really
you just
annoying,
serve out a game, and then it's all about, I think 75% of their shots, even at maximum speed, 75% of their shots are aces. So you're just trying to fight to get that break of serve by lobbing it back, and it got to the stage that if I returned it, I knew I was going to win the point, because all you had to do is kind of like put it down to the side and then lob to the back left, not the back right, and every time they'd just stand there set up as if they're going to smash it and just miss. It became a deeply frustrating thing, and it wasn't as short as those games. I think I would have liked it if it was. You get to select the length of games and the number of sets. And I started out with 3 game sets and 3 sets, being like, that's a nice happy medium. I don't want to do Wimbledon 5-set monsters. But then I had to turn it down, because it's like, you do a tournament like Wimbledon. I won Wimbledon as a 15-year-old. As you would.
It's been done.
As an absolute rank outsider, just absolutely walked my way through. But I was boring. Like, it was just, every game was exactly the same, and it was just about, okay, I'll just serve out my service games, and can I get enough points back in to kind of break serve?
This 15-year-old now, just like, lost the meaning of life, like drunk in the gutter somewhere, because he's like, I've fucking done it all. I've reached the top. I don't need the what else is there to conquer?
This is the thing, because like some of the and some of the
do a lob. Done. Show us the lob. No, show us.
Do it, lob Bob. I don't want to lob Bob. Wait,
it
even got to that stage that was like, I'm not going to use the lob. I'm going to try one of the. I'm going to try the top slicer. I'm going to try and some of the other moves, and it's quite satisfying. Like, occasionally you get a really satisfying rally where it's like, cool, I won that based on skill, not because something else messed up. But then there'll be other circumstances where, and this is perhaps when you get into a little bit of the technology at the time, and some of the weird input quirks, like you mentioned in the fighting one about going left and that being a problem. It was a real problem in this game, because holding the left cursor key down, it wouldn't register WSA or D. I had to let go of that, press the button, and then do that. So
we hadn't coded for that.
Ready for anything. Multiple buttons.
I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that was a problem with a number of games. At some point, like, I don't know what it was about how they were programming them, or just what the drivers were doing, but it just there's a few games where, like, if you've got one, like 2 buttons held down at the same time, it just doesn't work. And it was really frustrating, because it meant that any time a shot got played to my left, I was like, well, that's done. And it was hard enough to return serves, but it was practically impossible on the left, because you had to you had to anticipate where it was going and basically just guess. And if you guessed right, you had to let go at the right time. And it was, it just got frustrating. So my 15-year-old went on a journey of winning 2 majors as a 15-year-old on barely any training. He just ran in a straight line for 4 weeks. And it's like One Punch Man, but for tennis. And they,
Well run, man.
With his prize money, I went to one of the like weirdly well developed mini games that's in most of the New Star Soccer ones, which is the racing. I bought a couple of racehorses, and I decided, let's see if I can make my living as a 15-year-old through horse racing rather than through tennis. And that would have been a really, really good story for the rest of the podcast. But I got to the stage that my horse had a vet bill and I'd spent too much on the horses, so I needed to go back to tennis to earn some money to pay for the horses. And damningly, I couldn't be bothered. I couldn't be bothered doing a whole tournament.
Put the horse
it's like
down. Just put it down.
It's like each of the games, even on the shortest one, it's like 15 minutes minimum, and it's like 8 to win to win like a tournament that has any money behind it.
Yeah.
So it was just a bit, it just left me cold, and it's a shame because, as I say, the other games in the series are great. New Star Soccer has
I think we'll try those out now.
They're great. It's like there's like all sports games that I have discovered, there's a combination that just wins. And I think New Star Soccer 3, it was if you're dribbling and your control got high enough. You could basically dribble around the entire team, take it to the keeper, who would come out, and you could just dribble around and pass, which is much more reliable than like actually trying to shoot.
Shooting, yeah. Shooting's the least reliable thing in football.
I know,
games,
right?
It seems. I don't know.
Yeah. But and I think it was when I was when I won the Champions League for the 5th time, having scored 406 goals in the league. I thought, okay, maybe I'm done with this game now.
I was sitting there with a 15-year-old tennis guy, like
yeah, exactly.
It's a really interesting point you make about tennis. That is in almost like, and this isn't me having a go at tennis, but almost I'm thinking about it as an individual sport and stuff. Like, is in like when I look at golf, for example, you go to lots of different courses around the world and different conditions and everything. Tennis, you have 3 different types of court, and it's like you're kind of just doing the same thing over and over. And there are lots of other sports that are exactly the same as that. Like I say, I'm not going to go at tennis for that, but it's just interesting to think that it is probably difficult to put into a video game and make it super interesting all the time.
But some of the elements that some of the elements that you mentioned in Virtua Tennis would have been really good in there. Like having a manager that you have to keep happy, having to manage travel fatigue, just more variety of the minigames.
Into hens.
Yeah.
I've got a friend who's played tennis for years. In fact, I've got a couple of friends that have played tennis for years, and I actually asked him about that one time because I was like, surely it's just like, does it not get dull? And funnily enough, us talking about fighting games last time, I think he gets a similar thing out of it because it's like you're playing a different person, and that's where the fun is. It's that kind of mental chess type thing, and all that. And so I think for me, like it's worth having those mini games in to mix it up a little bit.
Yeah.
But I think the killer from what Haikers is saying is that it's the lack of variety in personality,
playing styles,
and playing styles that has well and truly killed this. Because if you haven't got that, what have you got left?
Yeah, I mean that's what I've probably leveled that criticism a little bit at Virtua Tennis as well. That actually, because I was so hellbent on world domination within a couple of hours, I didn't really notice the opponent AI that much either. That is, there wasn't that much variation. Like you say, when you're crushing Rafa Nadal, a Grand Slam, and you like, I was a bit like, oh, it's just a sack of meat to me, Rafa. Do you know what I mean? Let's serve at you. So that's fair. I guess it does matter a lot to have that in real life and in the game. So, right then, Rich, squash.
Yeah, are we doing a score for that one?
Oh,
first?
sorry. Yeah, cool. Yeah, sorry.
I've got the spreadsheet out and everything.
Yeah. It's got it.
See, the part of me wants to say 3, but I said that last time, and I think it's funny if I rate Skullgirls lower. So let's say 4.
Wow.
Right.
just be a sadistic bastard.
But more, I have real affection for the series as a whole, and pick up indie developers. Go on. Definitely check out the others. Really the others are really good.
Yeah, cool.
So, squash. Because I couldn't be bothered to do a tennis game. So I did something that's kind of like tennis, but in a small box.
I wonder how much less effort does it take to play?
Play
squash in a
approximately
video game.
half, I guess. So not to knock the real game in real life, it's quite intense, and you've got to be pretty fit for it and all that kind of stuff.
It can't get into the Olympics, can it? It always gets knocked back, doesn't it?
I honestly don't know.
Is that a pun?
No.
Okay.
Does feel
Fuck!
like
It
like
should have been a pun.
joke.
It should have been a pun. Right, stop this recording right now. Yeah, but they do struggle, don't they? They've been trying to get an Olympic sport for ages, haven't they? And they can't get it in. So
I get the appeal. Like, I get why it could work. But anyway, so this is an arcade game by Gaelco from 1992. So I played this on the Evercade. And you start it up, and you know that kind of text splash you used to get occasionally where it looks like the word is smashing through rock.
yeah,
You know the one I mean.
Oh yeah.
You get that with this, and it looks like it should be barking like squash at you or something, and it doesn't. And you're just like, okay, well, I'm kind of up for it though. This looks like it could be cool. And you get into it and thinking like, oh, with the title screen like that, I bet there's going to be all sorts of zany goings on, and it's an arcade game, and yeah, it's just squash. It's just normal squash.
The graphics guy knew one font.
Yeah, like it's a like in hindsight, it's kind of a jarring title screen because it just doesn't really.
I can do it for this and NBA Jam. That is
yeah. Like if there was a person with a racket hitting a ball, it would have made more sense in hindsight. But there wasn't. So yeah, you get into the game, and you can pick from a variety of squash players, all with various devastating haircuts. It's all very 90s. It's great. There's no obvious indication besides the kind of colour of the kit they're wearing and the sort of nationality flag of any kind of difference between them. So I genuinely don't know if they've got different stats or different abilities or approaches or playing styles, like we were just saying. I would struggle to tell you if that's the case. Full disclosure, I wrote these notes, I played it, I wrote these notes, put it to one side, and then realised about 10 minutes ago, fuck, I never waited for like the attract sequence. So it might have explained during that if that was the case.
You've not got time for that.
Well, there was nothing in the manual or anything like that either saying like, obviously saying that they've got a variety of approaches or whatever. So I'm kind of operating on the assumption not, because certainly when you're playing it, exactly like Haikers was saying about his, there's no real sense that they're doing anything different. But you get into it, and you can, for your one credit, you get like 5 faults, right?
5 squashes.
I guess. So basically,
Strawberry, orange.
if you get to the stage that the computer player is serving 5 times, that's your money gone, right? Yeah. So if you're me, you are not getting a full game of squash out of it, because it's like first to 9 and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I could see how back in the day it might have been a little bit of a sort of coin muncher and all that kind of stuff. Maybe not as bad as some things, but it's still,
not Space Invaders, but
but it's the kind of thing that, like, sure, you can press your coin button several times now and just load it up and keep playing, but you're still kind of going to be interrupted partway through the game and all that kind of stuff by a continue screen. So you've got 2 buttons. Hard swing and a soft swing.
Sounds simple to me. I like it.
It is pretty simple.
Can you just go over that one more time?
Come on, Spencer. Tell me how I do that again.
Apparently, you can aim. I would struggle to say I felt I ever had much control over it. Like, there were times where my planned approach did work, and the ball went exactly where I thought it would go. But then I realised that was like, I was counting on kind of one hand how often that was happening. And I don't know if that was a me thing or a game thing or a what thing. So you do have like a bounce before you have to return it, and then the point goes when it hits the floor again. So you do have a little indicator of where it's going to bounce. That'll change colour. So like, this is the safe bounce and this is the one where you lose the point. The problem was that I was finding it hard to kind of gauge the depth because you are in that little box. There's two of you milling around, and it's quite quick. And so there were a few times where I was like, I swore I swung for that, and I just completely missed it because I was a little bit too far back and all that kind of stuff. You can also dive for a shot.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
I imagine the 1992 animation.
In fairness, the animation through the game and like the colours and all that kind of stuff and the sprite work is actually really cool. Like, it's good. It's nice and big and bold and like legible. And I like, if anything, that's what made the kind of depth perception thing more frustrating, because I feel like you could have
you
nailed
did everything
it.
else.
Exactly. It's not like there's a shadow of the ball or anything like that. You just get an arrow, and it's not quite enough to kind of comfortably do it, I find. So yeah, if you dive, you are going to be dazed afterwards. Like, you can't get back up quickly. It's like it's
CTE.
It's like it's not a controlled dive.
Ran into
it's
a
like
wall.
they just fall on the floor and mash their head. And
blood everywhere.
What's doubly frustrating about this?
I fell on the arrow.
But like, you combine that with the depth perception problem, and suddenly it's like you're diving around and you're just missing stuff left, right, and centre. You're like, I should have fucking got that, and now I can't get back up to deal with the shot that's coming back. And then the computer will dive for it and just nail it.
Yeah,
and it's like, oh, come on.
This is like when someone's a member at the squash club and signs you in as a guest.
Yes, that's exactly what it felt like. Yeah, complete newbie, just like waving around.
You're only here, so I feel good.
Yeah.
Does the ball have, like, you know, when it falls and you can't reach it, does it have that kind of sound effect on games where like, ew, bloop, bloop?
No, like the sound effects are good on the whole. You get a bit of applause, like people clap you in because you've got a little crowd and all that kind of stuff. But it does sound like someone just like slapping a desk. But you know, it does the job.
Jeff, we need some sound effects.
It's, you know, it's fine. It's got a certain charm to it. It kind of generally plays kind of like a stiffer Mario Tennis, right? And so I think there's a kind of through thread with Virtua Tennis, especially in that respect. It's kind of weirdly addictive. Right, and I think if you were playing it on like one of the handheld Evercades, it would be great for like just nipping into for a couple of minutes on a bus or something like that. But I do feel like it's kind of where it's trying to be reasonably true to life. That's kind of its downfall for me. Like, if you chuck a power up or two in there, or like something quirky to kind of just it just feels like it was missing a certain something, a little spark to just elevate it a little bit for me.
Pac-Man, like, you know, give it
a
big nugget and run around fast.
Like, I know I said
find a strawberry.
I know I said I wasn't going to review the Tennis All Stars thing that was also on Evercade, the kind of nearly Pete Sampras one, but like that had something like quote unquote crazy tennis mode, where, like, you know, Dizzy, the walking egg comes across the net and all this kind of stuff, and there's power-ups and like weirdness and all that, or you can play it like a normal tennis game. Like, it feels like squash could have really benefited from something like that, you know, just a little spin on it, even if it was just like, I don't know, like, you can select between two. I don't know what you call them, courts or boxes. I guess they're still courts, right? So like, you could pick between two courts. One of them's where your crazy stuff is, and one of them's where your normal match is going to be. You know, something
just like
that.
real life.
Just like real life. We've all been down sports.
I always love your reviews, Rich, because you always have at the end. You're like, when something's not quite up to scratch, you're like, this is what you should have had. This is what you could have won.
It's what like, but this is the thing. Like, I don't want to like
do it.
I don't want to just like slap it down, right? Like, it is fun. I did have fun with it. I also did not play it for very long at all because I simply felt I didn't need to.
Ran out of credits.
Right? Well, yeah. But like, it just didn't seem to be much meat on the bone, right? But it was fun. I did enjoy my time with it. So like, I'm gonna give it like a 3. But it's like a good 3. You know, it's just it's there for a good time, not a long time.
Yeah.
And by like not a long time, like if you get an hour out of it, I would applaud you. There you go. Yeah, just like that. But yeah, like there is a charm to it, and it's not like it's fundamentally broken. It's just that it feels like a swing and a miss.
Yeah. We did that one.
Yeah, we did, didn't we? But anyway,
days to the floor trying to think that it's fun. Well, it is interesting because I've not seen certainly not for looking, but like any modern squash games. Do you know
Well,
what I mean?
that's the thing. Like, jokes aside, that was why I thought, like, you know what? I think it's worth me talking about it because it's one of those sports, kind of like you saying about not getting a break with the Olympics. Like, I have no great love for it. I'll confess that. But how refreshing it is to see a sport like that in game form.
Yeah.
And so I just thought, you know what? Like, sure, it's never going to set the world on fire. It clearly didn't win any awards or anything like that. And if it wasn't for Evercade, probably would have been forgotten.
Yeah.
And lost to the mists of time. So good on, Blaze and Evercade for making it happen. And yeah, it's just nice to be able to sort of give it a bit of love. But that said, it is not going to be the main thing that you're going to be playing on that cart. But it is a nice addition.
Yeah. A little diversion.
Yeah, it feels almost more like a mini game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's funny because speaking out loud about squash, like, it must be a particularly hard. It gets proud because, like, you always speak out loud. It must be a particularly hard spectator sport. Like, as in, the ball's tiny and moving so quick. Like, as in, I wonder if that's part of the
maybe
lack of appeal, if you will.
Maybe it's really difficult to film.
Yeah, maybe.
Properly, you know, like especially back when tellies didn't have refresh rates that could keep up with small, fast-moving objects.
Yeah.
I mean, that never stopped ice hockey from having popularity, but maybe that's because you just lamp each other.
I was going to say, because you beat the living daylights out of each other.
Maybe that's it. You just need to make squash full contact.
Yes, exactly. So when you're lying on the floor bleeding out your head already, someo's just stomping on you.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Solved it.
Oh, they should make it a Hell in a Cell, and you've got to get out of the court. Like,
the squash ball would just go through those, like, definitely not plastic links in the
before we start getting into wrestling games, we probably call it there, shouldn't we?
Yeah, knock it on the head.
No, that wasn't horrendous. That was I quite enjoyed the little tennis and squash.
You sound surprised.
Well, for people that aren't aficionados of the racket sports. You know.
Yeah, no, it's true.
Yeah, right, yeah.
Better at making a racket than playing.
On that note, thank you very much for listening.
Cheers.
Bye.